Hi everybody, Sandra here, and today's video is all about how to cope better with misophonia trigger sounds. And if you have misophonia, you've probably tried some of these, or perhaps all of them, and it's important to remember that not everything will work for everyone. Misophonia is a complex condition that is still not widely understood, and there are many factors that might underlie or make it worse. But the following might be helpful to you, and I'm going to offer my own take on these suggestions. So the first one is avoidance, trying to avoid or limit exposure to the specific sounds that trigger your misophonia. Now this might work for some people, but realistically, how practical is it for you? So if your triggers include people close to you eating or breathing, especially people that you live with, it can make life difficult trying to avoid them. But if you feel triggered mostly by being in noisy places, then it's slightly easier. So avoidance can unfortunately mean restricting yourself in your life and not being with the people that you love, or you might just keep running away or moving house, changing jobs. So it works for some people, but it could really put restraints on you and your life. Number 2, noise cancelling headphones or earbuds. So these of course will help to block out the sound or the volume of the sound, and they've helped many people who struggle with this condition. But there is of course the risk that you might end up feeling shut off from everyday life and normal interaction with other people, or just from normal everyday sounds that wouldn't ordinarily bother you. And many people with misophonia feel lonely and isolated anyway, but headphones can maybe help you get some peace if your triggers are only occasional or in certain settings rather than constant. Third of all, distraction. So try to distract yourself by focusing on something else, such as a book, music, or a hobby. Now this is a good technique, but it does take a little practice. And just remember, at the heart of misophonia is an oversensitive fight or flight mechanism. That part of the brain is called the amygdala, and that might be processing the sounds that you hear that trigger you as being risky or threatening. And if you imagine the trigger sound as being a little bit like the approach of a hungry saber-toothed tiger, how easy would it be realistically to distract yourself from it? Of course, you know it's not really a tiger, but if your fight or flight mechanism doesn't, then avoiding, distracting or blocking doesn't really cut it. It's all the same thing at the end of the day. This won't get to the root of the misophonia trigger. And some people have tried exposure to the noise gradually, so that brings us to number 4. Again, some people do find this helpful, but it certainly isn't for everyone. And why would you want to expose yourself gradually to the sound of something that might kill you? Going back to the saber-toothed tiger analogy. Number 5, acceptance. And this is very hard for a lot of people, but certainly not impossible. And there is some truth that actively resisting something can ramp up anxiety in the nervous system. So in my work with people with tinnitus, this tactic has been helpful, but it's not for everyone, like I said before, and it really does take quite a lot of practice. Number 6, relaxation techniques. So by practicing deep breathing or meditation or yoga, it really can help to calm the mind and the body in response to trigger sounds. But for those with anxiety as well as misophonia, and believe me, it is very common, these techniques can be incredibly helpful. They can really help you to calm your nervous system. But again, how relaxed can your amygdala be when it really believes there's a saber-toothed tiger every time you get triggered? And number 7, consider seeing a therapist. A therapist can help you to develop coping strategies and work through any underlying emotional issues. Some people find CBT can be helpful, or counselling, or hypnotherapy. There are millions of therapists out there, and a further million different types of therapy. So the feeling can of course be overwhelming when you're looking for someone to help you specifically. You could consider getting help from a therapist, of course, who specialises in misophonia, who has treated it before. And it's important to understand that it's not necessarily the sound that is the problem or how loud it is. It's what the sound represents, and that quite simply is a risk to your safety. That is the underlying subconscious driver, and it comes out in various ways. Run, hide, distract, hit out, feel frustration and anger, especially when it occurs to you that the more you try to control it, the more anxious it can make you feel, and it can be incredibly frustrating. But also remember that many people do cope and adapt, so don't lose heart. It often is just a case of trial and error a lot of the time, and what you're prepared to sacrifice in other areas of your life in order to stay free from the trigger. So I hope this has been helpful. It was just a little run through of various things that you can do to cope. And as ever, if you have any questions, just contact me directly. Many thanks. Bye for now.